Okay, thank you. I don't know, I've never heard that before, but that's new and different. All right, so good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Our Not Church this morning is on the topic of community. And I was doing a little reading on community myself, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what everyone has to say about it this morning, because we're all who are participating here this morning members of this community. And this community of Tranquilo, not church, is within a larger community of this physical area. But because of technology, we've been able to expand our community beyond our physical area. For example, we have Lance here from, where are you in? Are you in Massachusetts somewhere, Lance? No, New Mexico, New Mexico. Right. Okay. So community has many different purposes. John?
Well, I want to start off by welcoming you all to the Tranquilo Baja community. Community begins with meeting your neighbors. Friendly communication begins with saying hello, or in our case, buenos dias, ¿cómo estás? Community also connotates compassion.
Hang on a second. Sorry. Okay, I have muted that. All right, continue, please. Sorry, John.
That's okay. I was talking about how community connotates compassion.
There you go.
And caring about other people is part of a community. And there's a lot of caring in our community. There are people who rescue animals. We have people who volunteer to help the locals in myriad ways. And when our neighbors need help, there's help. Community is also about sharing common beliefs or goals. Communities originally were formed to survive. And in some cases, they still are today. You know, the sports fans are communities. Gangs are even communities. In fact, a lot of times that is why they form, is because they're trying to survive. Religions are a community. And not all communities are positive. Wars have been fought between communities, sometimes known as countries. Expats are a community. In America, they're known as immigrants. In any case, they often gather together to form a community. And there is strength in numbers. We like to feel strong. We like to help each other. There may be people who meditate, people who dance. Whatever the case, communities form to share a commonality. And today there's division, but even in division, there's commonality, but you have to look for it. Division involves fear. To overcome that fear, communication and commonality needs to bridge the differences. In the 7 Habits of Success, it talks about seeking to understand and then to be understood. To heal a community, look and see what the other side is really about, and then see how you can communicate your position and correct any misconceptions that may be present. Looking for commonality is a key to making this work. Use the connection to bridge the divide. Help the other side to see that commonality. In the Heights, I don't know if any of you've seen it, it's great, is about the Latino community in New York City. And it's empowering to the people in that community to feel seen and heard. That's what community does. So let me ask you these questions. Ask yourself, what communities are you a part of? How does belonging to those communities affect you? And how do you affect those communities? That's it.
Good. That's a good thing to think about. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. So normally at this point, or according to our program, we had intended to have Arthur lead us in a Quaker Friends practice of silence, but Arthur's on a plane and unable to join us. So what I found for us this morning is I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to share a meditation, a short meditation from Adyashanti, who is the spiritual teacher that we are studying in the happiness study group at the moment. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to turn this over to Adyashanti. It's going to be about 5-6 minutes. And I hope you enjoy it.
feel free to close your eyes, and I just want to remind you that the essence of meditation is really relaxation and ease. It's so easy to forget that. And so I just want to invite you, instead of sort of looking for a more quiet space, just notice that before you even look for it, there's a pre-existing quiet.
God, Percy. What the hell's the matter with
And so for the next few minutes, we're just going to easily and restfully just ease back into that inner state of quiet and peace. The quiet that's already there. Now you might notice as we sit together in quiet, there's sort of fundamentally two things happening. There's whatever noise there is, let's say, whatever thoughts there are. And then there's the space in which the thoughts arise. And we don't have to create that space the thoughts arise in, we just notice it. Every thought arises within a very quiet space. And when you don't fight against the thoughts, you just leave them be. Just let them be however they are. And it's just this little shift of attentiveness where attention sort of eases into the space that thoughts arise in, sort of like the quiet background. And so you're not just noticing the quiet background, you might also ask yourself, it's almost like asking your body, what does the quiet background feel like? What does it feel like in the body? To notice the inner space.
So you may wonder what that has to do with community, but there was a study on meditation where they had people. Sorry. Oops. We're going to get rid of that. You think I'd be able to get this down by now. So there was a study where they had people all over the world, and for a specific time, they would meditate. And they checked their heart rate. They had them all wired up. And what they found was that their heart rates and their rhythms all synced up, even though they were doing this all across the world in different places. So we're all not together, but we are together here by virtue of technology. And that brings us more together as a community when we share that quiet space. So now, to continue our discussion on community, I'm going to turn the gathering over to our dear friend, Bodhi Martina.
Thank you, Nadine. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I want to thank the community for inviting me here. I'm sharing my book, Dust in My Sandals. It's a heart project. And I want to thank John for his opening because it fits so beautifully into what I'm about to read. The bridging, I believe that this book bridges communities. And so you'll be the judge when I read these two stories that I've selected from the book. In the community and bridging community, what was outstanding for me that John spoke about was a piece that I had worked on for quite some time, which is about the need to be seen and heard, because there is so much voice in me that rarely is shared. So in this event of community today, this is very, very important. I'm feeling very deeply about being able to share this in this way. Every from ancient times, every community had a storyteller. So I just wanted to define storyteller a little bit for an understanding, because it does in some ways have a negative connotation within our modern community. Like, oh, stop telling stories, or you're such a storyteller. The storyteller tradition is an ancient one from cultures that did not write. And now, in their modern times, in this community, in La Mission, we have several storytellers, which is a gift to the community. It's a deeper way of looking at a daily or superficial story. Within a story, there's always a deeper story. And if we pay attention and are very present and are quiet, we will hear the sweet story underneath the daily story that we tell ourselves and one another. So I took two stories from the book that will share, I hope, a feeling of community. So it's like John also spoke about the feelings, and to be able to express those feelings and to be heard by others in an honoring way. And so the first story is actually We are part of a very early culture, the Kumeyaay tradition, the Kumeyaay tribal condition, celebration, the tribal way. So I'm celebrating in this story my experience. So storytelling is always about an experience that's shared with the community. So the first story is the Kumeyaay, an ancient celebration. Grandmother Oak spreads her massive branches as a canopy of shade for the gathering Kumeyaay. Her children have been gathering for 2,000 years in the Guadalupe Valley. The oak tree has provided them in life-sustaining ways for millenniums. The people come to honor their life in this June 13th celebration in the Guadalupe Valley. The settlement of San Antonio de Necua is fairly new in Kumeyaay history. Still, the oak and the plants of the region are very important to the modern-day tribe. This day, the shade from Grandmother Tree is deep and cool. I was included under the canopy with the families. The acorn, Sinua, has been at the core of the Kumeyaay survival. The village is built with the Sinua central, and everything radiates out from that point. The live oak acorn has sustained the people survival for thousands of years. Ground to powder and processed, it is a staple food and also can be turned into a drink. The oak roots run deep into the ground as it does in the people's lives, standing next to a living thing that is 200 years old, in part a profound sense of continuity. A new village has been created from the once small hamlet first built in the 70s. Even with the new buildings, the festivities are held out under the oaks, and the breeze is welcomed on a hot day. The open air kitchen is filled with activity. Women cook rice and beans in huge pots on an open fire. Warm tortillas go with the barbacoa, beef cooked in a pit. It takes the whole community to prepare the food. They will serve hundreds of people from noon into the evening. Hibiscus blooms create a refreshing drink. This bounty is shared with us as a gift and a long-held custom. Up the hill from the outdoor kitchen, singers and dancers are performing. The Kumeyaay tribe has an oral tradition and tells their stories through song, accompanied by the shaking of a large gourd rattle. As I took pictures, I watched the dancing feet. What strikes me is that they touch the earth with a gentle footfall. I'm seeing in action something I've heard many times in spiritual circles: to walk softly and leave no footprint. I'm seeing in action the warm air carried the fresh fragrance of sacred white sage, and there is a sense of quiet reverence as they follow the singer's lead. The singer advances as the dancers move toward him into the center. They meet, then slowly move back. This is repeated over and over as the power of the singer's voice combines with the vigorous sound of the rattle. As I took pictures, I found myself in a dance with them, a little embarrassed, yet I knew they would understand how one can be moved to join in. Light catches a girl's long black hair, children run everywhere, the old ways merge with the cell phone hooked at the singer's belt. An elder woman's eyes hold the depth of her wisdom. The youth learn the story song, singing with gusto, and the old ones are as solid as the oak, carrying the history passed on to them. In the shade, the artisans lay out their crafts. Everything is created from natural flora and fauna, from bows and arrows still used in hunting to feathered jewelry. The true artisans are the basket weavers. Their skill is world renowned. Horacio Gonzalez from Tierra Peninsular at the time said, every time a Kumeyaay basket is woven. The spirit of their ancestors is carried on in an endless and tightly knit symbol that is a reflection of the essence of the Kumeyaay community. Working together as a group, weaving past and present together, holding strong in unison, allows the family to stay as one unit for countless generations. The Kumeyaay have had to bridge the modern world and still hold sacred their tradition. Selling their baskets to the outside world is now necessary. On today's market, one winnowing basket can sell for several $1,000s, yet it takes 8 months to complete. Certain weavers are well known, and collectors will pre-bid when they learn a new basket is being created. The singing's been going on all day. At sunset, a bonfire will be ignited, signifying the end of the celebration. Horacio says, the fire means that the vibrant culture is still alive. This celebration started in the late 1970s as a way of seeking the cultural revival of the communities. Horacio's life is fully dedicated to this endeavor. He said, all we have to offer the world is our ancient tradition and culture, hospitality and friendship, and we offer it to anyone who wants to discover and experience our unique lifestyle. This is the purpose of our annual festival and celebration. Simplicity, dedication, determination allow us to carry on with our ancient traditions and culture. Horacio finished with a grin on his face. By the way, after 10,000 years of living in this region, we know how to throw a great party. From another small pueblo in southern Baja, I selected this one because I believe that it transmits the sense of the deeper community that we all desire at some point. The art of pueblo living. Morning starts slowly and so quietly in Mulaje. The first sign of the new day is sunlight splashing patterns on all old adobe walls, creating deep shadows on weathered doors not yet open. A rooster crows. A woman steps outside to sweep. Sweeping, a lost art, is alive here. No high-pitched whine of a leaf blower disturbs the awakening day in this small pueblo on the Gulf of California. The one gas station with a single pump opens early. So far, no cars are needing to fill up. Down the street, Polo, the shade tree mechanic, slides the heavy wire gate open. He limps to the car with its hood up and starts digging into the engine. There are several grocery stores, a sensible mini mart, Walmart, and one hardware store. You might not find the things that you want, but you will find the things you need. A grocer, Senior Yi, has a long history in Mulaje dating back to the Chinese immigration when labor was needed for the growing Baja California Peninsula. Casa Yi has an odd assortment of things, and most people use it as a place to fill small propane tanks and hang out in the shade as the morning begins to warm. In a small village, people are often more than they appear to be. Salvador drives a taxi. He's also one of the most knowledgeable sources for a cave painting tour, including the plant medicine that has been passed down from the Cochini Indians' prehistory. I catch Francisco Lopez Ramirez sitting out front of Yi's grocery. Francisco, a fisherman his whole life, was born and raised in Mulaje. As a child, his father taught him how to fish, and his father learned from his grandfather. Francisco traces his ancestors all the way back to the Yaqui Indians, who lived in harmony with the Cochini of southern Baja. He remembers a time when the Gulf was abundant with fish. It's not so today. A pescador's life is not an easy one, yet it has not diminished Francisco's brilliant smile and playful nature. He is seen laughing on the back of this cover. The town's waking up. A camper from with Canadian plates is arriving, loaded down with bicycles and kayaks. They will spend months on the playa south of town, along with many others from Oregon and Washington. These snowbirds escape the northern winter to enjoy the sunshine and warmth of this latitude. This migration changes the town's population for a time. Morning traffic is mostly on foot. A few cars are headed to the primary school to drop off the children. There are no stoplights. All movement is allowed to flow naturally. A white van of the local Rotary Club moves through the intersection, and I've heard that a dermatologist from the US will be in town for 3 days at the clinic. The treatment's by donation and according to the ability to pay. Adolfo drives by waving. He has a big grin on his face. He's a shopkeeping blanket vendor, and we have a history from years ago when he dated my sister. The feeling of family transmits across the years. I step into Las Casitas, wave to Nellie in the kitchen, and take a table in the sunlit patio. I begin to jot down the pieces of this story, collage of morning images. Sparrows flit through the trees overhead, and an occasional yellow blossom falls on the blue tablecloth. A brushstroke of cool green shade, bright, vibrant colors, and mossy fountain make time disappear. Filled with a delicious breakfast, I step into the street again. The warm smell of masa baking drifts from the tortilleria next door. I see the bomberos wiping down the fire trucks, donated by the Fresno Fire Department of California. An old black dog lies in a patch of sunlight. He's one of the lucky ones, since Paul was created by a group of Americans many years ago. Now, unwanted and forgotten dogs find health and adoption. A reduced street dog population is a gift to the community. Midday, the town takes shelter from the sky's glowing heat. It's siesta time. The shadows stretch out across the street. We were lucky to have a cool afternoon breeze blowing in from the Gulf. Lupe is pulling out the hot dog cart. It is as charming as it gets. Lupe pulls out the shopping cart. Tables with red and white checkered tablecloth are set up on the sidewalk. The Mexican hot dog is just the greatest. The sky turns dark blue. Chips of stars begin to break through. Strings of white lights adorn trees and storefronts. A curious phenomena begins. The youth of the village take to the streets. What an amazing thing it is to know that children are safe after dark. They sit in clusters on park benches with their cell phones and plug into iPods, but many are actually talking to each other. The beach is just a few minutes away, and some of us will go out to watch the moonrise over the Gulf, ending the day with black water shimmering in iridescent silver light. The larger cities of Baja California have so much to offer the traveler: art, music, beautiful hotels, gourmet food, and good wine. Yet, in a small village, one learns to live in an artful way with seemingly much less. Art is defined as the conscious arrangement of sounds, colors, and forms creating beauty. Art can also define how we live our lives. And at this point, I would ask you all to please close your eyes into that silent place. Art is defined as the conscious arrangement of sounds, colors, and forms creating beauty. Art can also define how we live our lives. And I thank you very much for receiving that, as well as just another ending that I wanted to pass on. It actually came just recently. I watched the movie Australia, and the line from that movie fits so perfectly into how I have come to know myself as a storyteller and the life of a storyteller. So it's a very, very simple, but a very powerful statement. In the end, all we are is a story. Thank you to the whole community.
You are muted.
Ooh, Nadine's
Nadine.
not unmuted.
Sunny, hi, good morning.
Good morning. So is it my time?
It's your turn. I'm sorry I was muted. I didn't realize. I'm
Oh, that's all right.
obviously new at this.
Well, thank you all for having me, asking me to talk a little bit about activity in our community. And I am greatly appreciative. Thank you. Let me put my timer on because I can go on.
Oh, well, that's appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start that. So so to introduce myself, I don't know all of you, but I've came to the community about almost 3 years ago, and I am blissfully happy here. I'm actually content, more content than I have been in my entire life. And I know part of that is because of the service that I've been able to do. And I quickly joined Rotary at an invitation by a friend. And I had always heard of Rotary and knew that they were around, but figured it was a group of old white men, and I didn't particularly want to join that, but I found out that that wasn't the case. All around the world, there are people that care about their communities, and the four-way test is just a beautiful motto that I am not going to read here at the moment. I want to talk about our community. So shortly after I got here, there were those fires, the big fire, and it did scare me a bit. The sky turned chocolate, and I learned about our bomberos, and I learned that they were putting out fires with buckets and tennis shoes and shovels and rakes, and that's really all they had. And I live in the Ejido, so that the captain and the Ejido president they were all bomberos at the time. So through my home, I was able to meet a core group of people, including Ramon and Omar, and learned of their need. And I'm not one to come in and do what I want to do. I went and with a few others, we audited what they had, found out what they needed. And then I was able to coordinate once I joined Rotary, and I've been the Bomberos chairman ever since. And I started pretty quickly, a campaign, a GoFundMe campaign that many of you participated in. And it was called Outfit the Station, because we knew that what we could get them right off the bat wasn't necessarily the entire need, so that it morphed, it grew as we needed more. We were able to do a few more fundraisers, and we got Rotary clubs from all over the United States to pitch in, as well as locals. So the first group, the first purchasing that we got them 16 Indian backpack sprayers. And those things can shoot 20 to 30 feet away, and they shoot a great deal of water. And I don't know if you know this, but most of these fires that are started here are started by cigarette butts being flicked out of the cars. And the bomberos they're all volunteer, they don't get paid, and they carry these backpack sprayers in their car full of water, so that if they're near one and they see a fire, they jump out and they put the dang thing out. So that we have had very few fires this year compared to what we could have had. And there's some wear and tear on those. And so there's another community-based fundraiser that's Amanda I forgot Amanda's last name. I'm sorry. She's a rancher out in just past the fire station. She's starting a GoFundMe because more and more people get involved. You know, you don't have to be Rotarian to help out. It's an easy job to find out what's needed. And so she's going to be able to get them backpack, the liners, the new liners that have popped holes in them, and also the rebuild kit for the nozzle that sometimes they turn them on and the nozzle gets shot out. And then, so they need to be rebuilt. So that's part of my process, is that things happen, you fix certain things and then more break. And so it's an evolving need. What else? We got them a Jaws of Life, and it was just the cutest thing in the world to watch them learn how to use it. And that was a group effort between our Rotary group and others. And what else? So also we did start, there was a subgroup that did the Eco Casa, and that wasn't a Rotary to begin with. It was through a group called La Misión Fuerte. And they saw a need, there was some money, Leslie Brockett and Susan Craik and others helped build a house for a community person that had been determined by Brenda Pinto and others that they were in need, but they didn't qualify for the federal monies. So we built this house, and right at the very end, we discovered that we ran out of bottles. We ran out of plastic soda bottles that could be filled with sand and pounded, and they turn into these bricks. So they take up mass within a cement, so you don't have to keep putting cement. You can stretch by using sand and soda bottles. And we had a wonderful man from Tijuana here who guided us throughout the whole process. But anyways, running out of those things, we realized that we had a need. And so ultimately we've created a resource center, and it's called Eco Resource Center. Am I done?
Apparently, but you can go, you can finish your sentence. You can have another.
The
Yeah.
Eco Resource Center is to collect bottles. And the big picture and why we call it Resource Center is that the goal is to work with Mujeres para Mujeres and Brenda Pinto to create jobs, craft type jobs, making lights out of wine bottles. But it's a multi-phase process. We have to teach them electricity, how to make a light socket with a on-off switch on it, how to make how to cut the glass. So we are looking for volunteers that are willing to teach classes. We have translators that will translate. And again, the goal is to create jobs off of the resources that we can gather through our waste. And I know many of you are already dropping off bottles, and it's getting overrun. So the collection center is pulling in more than we can use at the moment, but we can't say don't bring any more. There are signs at the resource center. There's signs right off of the freeway to get there. If you need help to know where it's at, let me know. But you know, part of the picture is the signs say, don't bring beer bottles. People bring beer bottles. Don't bring, you know, we're looking for specific liquor and wine bottles, and people bring San Pellegrino bottles. They're beautiful. They're green. So that's making us adapt, where we'll probably expand to a green glass collection area. So anyways, we appreciate everybody's involvement. If you want to help, jump in. I'm love to talk to you, and I'm easily available through Facebook Messenger. I believe most of you know how to reach me, and that's what I wanted to say, and to thank you all for being interested.
Thank you, Sunny.
You're welcome.
And you can put your contact information in the chat if you like, and we can forward that, post it later on the website, forward it. So this is an interesting combination of people from our community, the spirit of our community. And I think what my takeaway from this is we choose to participate in a community, and the key word here is participation. And we all have different ways of participating. Martina can tell us beautiful stories that connect us to the ancient roots of this community, along with personalities throughout Baja that she's encountered, and wonderful stories. And if you want to hear more about that, I certainly recommend checking out her latest book, Dust in My Sandals. It's really a wonderful collection of stories that are all about Baja, all Martina's experience in the over 20 years that she's been living here. And but then to the practical ways of participating, that Sunny jumped in and participates with Rotary and participates with, you know, beefing up the Bomberos capacity, and that morphed into collecting bottles and creating a community resource. So there, you know, there are different ways that we all can participate. And I think John brought up some really important questions that I will repost about questions that we ask ourselves on how do we want to participate in the community? What does the community give to us? What are the benefits of being part of this community? And what can we give to the community? You know, it's like that, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. It's kind of the same thing with community. And the more you do, the more you feel connected, the more rewarding it is. And, you know, I mean, I tend to be somebody who likes to stay in my house and not go anywhere. So, but I can tell you that getting out and participating is a very rewarding thing. And I encourage you all to do that. I thank you all for being here today. I want to open it up to comments and questions. You can all unmute if you have a question for Martina or Sunny, or I think is John still here? Maybe not. He was having computer issues. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
Actually, I'd like to jump in here first because it's something I actually wanted to start with. I wanted to say that the book is here because it takes a village. And this book would not have had happened if I was doing it all by myself. The first person who came in that got the ball rolling was Graham McIntosh, who is a great Baja storyteller. And one day he opened the door and showed me how the possibility of print on demand book could happen. And then it was my friend Maria Morales who picked me up and held my hand as I got started along the way and went through some emotional times together. And I so appreciate Maria in our village. John Larson from um, John Larson did the photo cover for the book, and that just took a huge weight off that I didn't have to deal with that. So it was a village that put the book together, and I just wanted everyone to know that, and to thank everyone. I wanted to use the names in the community so the community would know that these people exist, and then of course Nadine, who brought the book to the finish line. That we for me on my hands and knees, for her was strong and kept on going, get going, and brought me to the finish line, and is actually still helping with cleaning up the book a bit. So thank you for everyone, and thank you for community.
And it's a great thing to have participated in that book. I actually haven't read the whole thing cover to cover, but through working with it, I'm very familiar with the stories, and I can't tell you enough how, if you live here, if you all are familiar with God and Mr. Gomez, I think most everybody who's moved to Baja has either read or knows about that book. And if you don't and haven't, then do read it. And it strikes me as a Baja classic, in the same way that Martina's latest book strikes me as, you know, working with it. It is a classic, and it's wonderful stories that brings us, it brings us into the community. It brings us into the community of Baja. And as most, I think everybody here is expat, it's easy to isolate ourselves and hang out with what we know and what's familiar, and not venture out into local community. But reading Martina's book just makes you want to be part of it and makes you grateful to be part of it. So I recommend that to everyone who lives here. Anybody?
Thank you.
I do. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Does anyone have a loaner copy of God and Mr. Gomez? I'd love to read it. And then secondly, if I could tell one quick little story, it was so beautiful, is that through the Bombero experience, I was invited to their traditional birthday ceremonies where the Bomberos are hosed from the fire truck in their full turnout gear, and everyone attending is supposed to hose them. So I was invited to Omar's birthday and posed him. And of course, at the end, they come up and they give you a wet, sloppy hug. And having them in the winter is not so fun. But I'll tell you, they kept telling me I was familia. And the fact that you can do work that you feel so good and then become family, again, leads to my contentedness. I am just extremely happy. And I encourage everyone, again, as you said, find your way, what works for you, and just get involved. It's a wonderful community.
Yes, well said. Beautiful. Well, if no one has any further comments, I will bring this gathering to a close. I thank you all for joining us this morning and being a contributing part of this wonderful, amazing community. And we will look forward to seeing you in August. Thank you all. Have a wonderful, beautiful summer day.
Aloha.
Enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Much love.